but I was just like jaw dropped when I heard it. I was like, especially when the upper part came along, I was like, what is this? You know, I was so WTF when I first heard it. Hey everybody, this is TJR. Last year, Rolling Stone updated and published their top 500 albums of all time list. And I thought back then it might be a cool idea to do a casual video where I go into the list blind without having looked at it first and just see what the various entries, you know, what reactions they elicit. What do I know? What do I not know? And boy, did a lot of people get mad at me. Guess I should have mentioned that I don't follow rap and hip hop. And so if there is any rap and hip hop on the list, I'm probably not going to know it. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that. I should have also pointed out that Rolling Stone's taste in music and my taste in music don't always agree with each other. So yeah, there were going to be some albums that I wasn't familiar with. So this year, Rolling Stone has done it again. They've just updated and released their top 500 songs list of all time. And just like last year, I want to look at the top 50 songs and see what reactions the various entries elicit in me. Why? Because I didn't get enough trolling and abuse the last time. However, this year, I'm going to do a little preface and just let you know that while I do have over 2,000 albums in my music collection, and over 18,000 songs, I don't really follow rap and hip hop. I probably own a very small handful of rap and hip hop albums in my collection. So once again, more than likely, if there's rap and hip hop on this list, I'm probably not going to know it. So let's get started here. First, I'm going to read a little paragraph here from Rolling Stone that describes how the list was put together. In 2004, Rolling Stone published its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. It's one of the most widely read stories in our history, viewed hundreds of millions of times on this site. But a lot has changed since 2004. Back then, the iPod was relatively new, and Billie Eilish was 3 years old. So we've decided to give the list a total reboot. To create the new version of the Rolling Stone 500, we convened a poll of more than 250 artists, musicians, and producers, as well as figures from the music industry and leading critics and journalists. They each sent in a ranked list of their top 50 songs, and we tabulated the results. Nearly 4,000 songs received votes. Where the 2004 version of the list was dominated by early rock and soul, the new edition contains more hip-hop, modern country, indie rock, Latin pop, reggae, and R&B. More than half the songs in here, 254 in all, weren't present on the old list, including a third of the top 100. The result is a more expansive, inclusive version of pop music that keeps rewriting its history with every beat. We'll circle back to that in a moment. So what this is telling us is that less than 300 individuals voted on this list. They were all either musicians, artists, recording industry, producers, professionals, industry figures, or music writers and journalists. Now, within that group, I'm sure that some of those music writers work for Rolling Stone. But still, I'm sure many more of them don't work for Rolling Stone. So let's take a look at 50 through number 1 and see what happens here. So first, at number 50, of course, Daddy Yankee, Gasolina. And I say of course, because of course this is rap. And not only have I never heard of Daddy Yankee, but I've never even heard of this song. Let's go to Wikipedia and see who this guy is here. Okay, he is considered the king of reggaeton, and he has sold over 20 million albums. Good for him. At number 49, Lauryn Hill, Doo-Wop, That Thing. I have heard this song. I think it's a pretty good song. I don't think it would make my top 50 or even my top 100 or even my top 200, which is not to say it's a bad song, but I have heard this song. And let's see, what do we got here? Number 48, Radiohead, Idiotech, year 2000, from the album Kid A, which is an album that I own. This was the first Radiohead album I ever got. I was in this band, and the other guitarist was telling me about them, and he loaned me the album. And so I took it home and listened to it, and I thanked him afterwards. I said, this album's a masterpiece. Went out and got it myself. At number 47, Elton John, Tiny Dancer from 1972 from the album Madman Across the Water. And of course, my experience with Elton John goes back to the beginning of my discovery of popular music. If I was to pick an Elton John song to be in my top 50, it would be Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding. That is his masterpiece. And Tiny Dancer is a masterpiece too, don't get me wrong. But I just think that Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding is a greater masterpiece. Elton could do no wrong in the 70s. At number 46, MIA Paper Planes from 2008. Joe Strummer helped write this song. I have heard of MIA, but I don't think I've heard a single note of their music. Or is it a band, or is it just a single artist? I'm not sure. But I've never really, I don't think I've heard this. Maybe I have. Maybe if I played it right now, I'd say, oh yeah, it's that song. But I doubt I've ever heard this. Kendrick Lamar, All Right, from 2015. And Kendrick Lamar, of course, a rapper. I'm, of course, familiar with him. I've heard of him. I've maybe heard a little bit of him in passing. People tell me he's awesome. But yeah, I don't think I've ever heard this. And number 44, Michael Jackson, Billie Jean from 1982. This is basically, in my opinion, his masterpiece. I think this is the best song he's ever written. Back when I was playing in like a hard rock metal band, I used to tell my fellow bandmates we need to cover this song, and I showed them how we could do it as a heavier, grittier song, and they all just looked at me like I was crazy. And they were like, we can't cover him. You know, they were too afraid to even try it. Years later, of course, I would cover it with a trio that I had, although we wouldn't do it in like a heavy metal style. Number 43, My Girl by The Temptations. I mean, you know, there are so many great songs from this golden era of Motown. I mean, so many. How can you pick one to be in the top 50 and not the other? I'm sure if I look back on the other songs on this list, there are other songs from this era. Yeah, I mean, how do you pick one? They're all amazing. Number 42, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Redemption Song. This is a really good song, and I've heard some really good remakes of this song. I'm not a reggae fan. I really am not. My partner, super fan, she likes Bob Marley. But this is a great song. I mean, there's no getting around it. Number 41, Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart. This is one of those songs that it's kind of like looking at a Van Gogh painting. I think we're supposed to call him Van Gogh now. Yeah, I've been pronouncing him Van Gogh for decades now. It's very hard to correct that. But this is like looking at a Van Gogh painting, because it's impossible to not look at the art without considering the artist's life. And that's how I feel when I hear this song. Number 40, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, All Along the Watchtower from 1968. Of course, this is his classic cover of, you know, the Bob Dylan song. You know, I mean, Bob Dylan wrote it, but when we think of the song, we think of Hendrix's version. Even Bob Dylan has changed the way that he plays it live now because of Hendrix. And then again, Jimi Hendrix, you know, which one of his brilliant songs are you going to put in the top 50? Maybe there's more Jimmy in this top 50. We'll see. I hope this isn't the only entry. Number 39, Outkast, B.O.B. from the album Stankonia from 2000. I actually have 2 Outkast albums in my collection. Remember when I said I have a couple rap albums in my collection? Well, 2 of them are from Outkast, but this one isn't. So I'm not familiar with this.
Teeny, take out the baby.
I may have heard it, who knows, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, and I'm not going to go back and listen right now. Anyways, it'll give you trolls something to write about. Number 38, Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I, of course, grew up with this song as a kid. Even before I got into popular music, one of my favorite pastimes on the weekend on Sundays was going to the local swap meet that they had at the drive-in theater. And of course, one of the things that I remember about that was that people had their radios on. Everywhere you went, people had their radios on. And there were only a couple of really popular, top 40 radio stations at that time. And so by and large, most people had their stations at the same dial. So you could be walking, hear a song, walk a little further, and you keep hearing it, and walk a little further, and you keep hearing it. It would fade out, it would fade back in as you walk through the swap meet. And of course, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay was a big hit. During the late 60s, I was still a little kid, looking for comic books, but I remember that. Anyways, and these songs lasted well beyond the year they came out. You could listen to Top 40 back then. And even in 1969 or 1970, you could still be hearing this stuff. Number 37, Prince and the Revolution, When Doves Cry. And yeah, this is a great song. But again, which Prince song do you pick? Back in the early days of YouTube, I covered this song. I did an acoustic cover of it, and it got pulled, and I got a copyright strike for it. This was before the internet came to realize just how jerky he'd be if you covered one of his songs. And I've never covered Prince since. That's right, I forgot about that. I wonder if I could publish it now and if the same thing would happen. I remember when Prince passed away, a lot of people covered Prince songs, but they weren't getting taken down. Prince would have anything taken down, but now that he's passed on, I'm guessing maybe his estate is being a little bit more lenient. They understand that people covering songs doesn't keep people from buying them. Number 36, The White Stripes, Seven Nation Army. So let me say something here that'll probably piss off some of you out there. I like Jack White a lot. He's a brilliant musician. And I have liked some of his solo stuff, and I've not liked some of his solo stuff. I've liked some of his side project albums. In fact, I've liked his side project bands, excuse me. I've liked his side project bands better than the White Stripes. I have tried listening to the White Stripes. I've listened to their music, and it just has never really connected with me. I'll admit this song here has a nice guitar riff to it, but I feel like the song as it exists is not fully realized. I feel like it needs further development, and that's just how I feel. Never really got into the song, but I've heard it many times. Number 35, Little Richard, Tutti Frutti from 1955. Yeah, you can't put enough of this stuff in the top 100 or the top 50. Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Buddy Holly, Elvis Presley, most of all Chuck Berry. I'm hoping Chuck Berry's in this top 50. He better be. James Brown, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag from 1966 at number 34. And I did cover this song on this channel. It's on YouTube. Did an electric guitar cover. You can check it out. And this is, in my opinion, on my list of the most badass songs ever. Bar none. Number 33, Chuck Berry, Johnny Be Good, 1958, yes. And Chuck Berry, as far as I'm concerned, rock's first great storyteller. Huge influence on me. Huge influence on me as a songwriter. Most of his best songs told these ironic little stories. And yeah, I don't think he gets enough credit as a songwriter. I know he's considered legendary, but I don't think people really appreciate his songwriting as well as maybe they could. Number 32, Notorious B.I.G., Juicy. I don't think I've heard a single track by Notorious B.I.G. I know he's a famous rapper, but yeah, I just don't follow rap that much.
You monster! You monster!
Okay, number 31, The Rolling Stones, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. And again, another song for the list of most badass songs ever. When I was guitar teaching, if I had a student that was having a hard time, grasping certain concepts, being able to master the coordination, one thing I could throw at them that would get them excited and re-energized was show them how to play the main guitar riff to satisfaction, because it's all single notes and you can play it on one string. It's easy to play, but I would cue up the music, play it for them, say, okay, now play along. Dun, 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 dun. And they'd get excited because, look, I'm playing it. I'm playing with the Rolling Stones. At number 30, we have the song Royals by Lorde. And from 2011. Hard to believe it's been that long already. I like this song from the moment I first heard it. I mean, it's just ear candy. It has a strong Beatles influence, in my opinion. Although, from what I understand, that was not an influence when the song was being written. But I hear a strong Beatles influence. Number 29. Dr. Dre featuring Snoop Doggy Dogg. Nothing but a G-thing. For a while there at my work, I had a number of conversations with a coworker who sat pretty much catty-corner to me. And he was a rapper. And, of course, I'm a guitarist. And he and I talked about music a lot. He was not into rock. He was into rap. He was into R&B. He was into jazz. You know, I was into rock. I love R&B too. I was into rock, pop, R&B, you know, soul, funk, but not into rap. But anyways, he and I would talk music, and he introduced me to a mini-series called The Defiant Ones. And it traced the careers of Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine and their partnership. And I learned a lot about hip-hop from that documentary. And if you don't know anything about hip-hop, and even if you're not into hip-hop or rap, I would recommend you watch it so you can understand it better. But let me get back to our conversations, those conversations I had with that coworker and how this ties in. I discovered that a lot of the rap I did like was produced by Dr. Dre. And when I watched this documentary and I saw how he created what he called the beat for the song, the hit single, The Real Slim Shady, he calls it the beat, I call it the groove. I realized he's 50% of what he produces. And I was talking to my friend about that at work, and he said, oh yeah, he is. I said, yeah. And I did a little test. I took the first Snoop Dogg album that he produced, and then I listened to one of his later ones that he did not produce, and the difference was night and day. And the difference was the ones that he produced had all these really cool, badass grooves in them. And I liked that album. And so I said to myself, I've got to listen to his solo album. I've been saying that for a while. It's on my list. I have hundreds of stuff on my list, but it's one that I do want to get to, this album. But no, I have not heard this song. And anyway, sorry, that was a long ramble there. Number 28, Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime, and from 1980, from the album Remain in Light. Now, I got a lot of crap from viewers because I said I didn't know this album. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't know the hit single off it, you know, Once in a Lifetime. Of course I knew that song, but I had never heard the album in full. And a lot of people, some people were cool and said, oh, you've got to hear it, it's a masterpiece. Other people were very snobby about it. And, you know, I think that if you are snobbish about your musical tastes and you're snobbish to the people that haven't heard what you've heard or don't like what you like, you make them hate the music you like that much more. That's what you do. That's all you do. Anyways, though, the song, Once in a Lifetime, brilliant. When I first heard that, it was unlike anything I'd ever heard. And it had this sense of goofiness to it, but it also had this sense of just paranoid insanity to it as well. This really dark, dark undercurrent that was very hard to put my finger on. And it was almost, in that respect, kind of frightening, too. To this day, I still have a hard time describing that song, but I know that it's awesome. I love this song. And I do keep saying that I need to listen to this album in full and do a hot take on it. Seeing this here again makes me think I should do that. Number 27, Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. Okay, let me piss some people off. I think this is a great song. I have this album. I've heard it numerous times. Bruce Springsteen, to me, is like Dylan. He has songs that I like a lot. I've listened to his albums, but by and large, I've never connected with the majority of his recorded work, although he has some hit singles that I really like. Same with Bob Dylan. Joni Mitchell, A Case of You from 1971 from the album Blue. And I like Joni Mitchell a lot. I really do. I bought this album quite a number of decades ago and listened to it numerous times. Didn't get into it. So I think it's time to listen to it again and see if it doesn't hit me differently. But I have other albums by Joni Mitchell that I just love, you know. And you can't like everything, okay? So if you're upset or offended that I didn't care for this album, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not offended if you don't like something I like. At number 25, Runaway by Kanye West featuring Pusha T, 2010. Kanye West, I've heard a few things from him. I've liked a couple of things from him. But I'll tell you, his behavior, his public displays of arrogance, you know, on the one hand, I want to say, oh, he's just doing it for publicity. But on the other hand, it's a real turnoff. It's just a major turnoff. And it makes me just not want to listen to his music, which is going to, with that said, you're going to think it's really wild to find out that I covered one of his songs. The one that he and Paul McCartney did, Only One. I listened to that track and thought, you know, this sounds like a demo, an unfinished demo, a song that needs to be completed. And I know I'm pissing off the Kanye fans out there, but that's how I felt about it. I felt like this was an incomplete piece of work. It's just a rough demo. So I sat down and recorded my own version and, you know, did full instrumental orchestration on it. And it's here on YouTube, and it's on Spotify, Tidal, and you can go there and, you know, listen to it, and you can be hateful because I dared to say something bad about the great Kanye West. Number 24, The Beatles, A Day in the Life from 1967. Yeah, this is their masterpiece. Just like I said about Springsteen with Born to Run. You know, this is their masterpiece, this song. And this song, when I first heard it, it just blew my brain wide open. And it still does to this day. And I realized when I heard this, there's really no rules. Even though we keep putting up rules, there are none. Pop music can be anything. And anytime I start to forget that, A Day in the Life by the Beatles reminds me that it's true. Number 23, David Bowie, Heroes from 1977. A great song, no doubt about it. I think for the top 50, I'd pick a different David Bowie song, but a great song nonetheless. And then just like so many people on this list, you know, which one do you pick? The Ronettes, Be My Baby from 1963. And, you know, this song, even though it's early 60s, it's kind of that transitional period between what we knew as the 50s and what was yet to become the 60s. Even though it's not the 50s, just like some of the 50s classics we've already looked at, it's right there with them. You know, these are all just great songs. They're wonderfully joyous. That's what I say about the music from this time period. Wonderfully joyous. Number 21, Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit from 1939. You know, this is the first song I've seen that's pre-1950s in the top 50. I'm assuming there are other songs that go back further that are on this list here. And I'm sure this music from previous eras are very underrepresented, and that's because the voting base doesn't remember these songs anymore. And that's because as time goes on, most popular music falls by the wayside. It gets forgotten. And just a few gems continue on. And I said this, when I followed up to that video I did about the top 500 albums, and I addressed my critics and all this, one thing I said is, I said to all the people who thought that the huge changes, all the newer artists, more black artists, said it's a conspiracy. They're enforcing diversity on us. It's woke. It's a bunch of woke SJW crap. No. Time is moving on. We boomers, we're not the relevant generation anymore. We're not. And Rolling Stone, in order to stay relevant, has to appeal to the younger generation. We stopped being the generation they appealed to a long time ago. And, you know, it's just that time has moved on. It's a younger group of voters. And so, yeah, the music is going to change. They're more into hip-hop. They're more into rap. So, yeah, you're going to see more of that. It's not a conspiracy. It's just time moving on. Okay? People don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with the just the soberness of that thought. But let's get back to this song, Strange Fruit. I mean, I'm sure you know this song's place in history. And I'm afraid to say anything about this song because I don't want to trivialize it. You know, I don't feel I could say anything briefly about this song that wouldn't otherwise trivialize it. And this is a sadly disturbing song. And it's sad that it's still relevant now. That's all I'm going to say. Number 20, Robin, Dancing on My Own. Okay. It says here she's a Swedish disco queen. I just read the first sentence here. And this is something I've never heard. I mean, maybe I've heard it, but if I have, I don't remember. I don't know who Robin is or Dancing on My Own. And but she's a disco queen, apparently. I thought disco queens died out back in the 70s. Apparently not. And I might like this if I heard it, but yeah. Perhaps I will after we're done with this. Number 19, John Lennon, Imagine. I guess from his solo career, this is the song that he's most identified with. It's the one that most people think of when they think of his solo career. I have not listened to all of his solo albums. I've listened to some of them. I've listened to the album that this song is off of course. And it's a great song. I would probably pick a different one for the top 50 if I was going to pick one. But a great song nonetheless. Prince, he's here again in the top 50. Purple Rain, great ballad, you know. I don't think it's as strong as When Doves Cry. I don't think it's as strong as that. And I think he's got stronger songs than this, but this is still a great song. Number 17, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, 1975, from the song Night at the Opera. I own a lot of Queen albums, but this is the first one I bought was Night at the Opera. Yeah. And when I first heard Bohemian Rhapsody, my brain melted as a kid. And I wasn't even sure if I liked it. But I was just like jaw dropped when I heard it. I was like, especially when the opera part came along, I was like, what is this? You know, I was so WTF when I first heard it. This is their masterpiece. I mean, I think the album Night at the Opera is their Sgt. Pepper album. And this song is their A Day in the Life. Number 16, Beyonce, Love featuring Beyonce featuring Jay-Z, song Crazy in Love. Of course, I know this song. This is a cool song. Wouldn't make my top 50, but it's a really good song. Number 15, The Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand. I don't mind this being in the top 50 or top 100. I don't know if it should be higher than A Day in the Life, but maybe they're thinking culturally because of, you know, it was their first #1 single in the U.S. Number 14, The Kinks, Waterloo Sunset, 1967. I don't own any Kinks albums. I know they're hit singles, but I don't think I've heard this song. It doesn't ring any bells. Maybe I have. Maybe if you played it for me, I'd say, oh yeah, that song. Number 13, The Rolling Stones, Gimme Shelter. I own a lot of Rolling Stone albums. They have a large catalog, and I own most of them. There's a few during the 90s up to the present day that I've not heard, but otherwise, I pretty much have their entire catalog. Out of all of the albums, Let It Bleed is one of my all-time favorites, if not my absolute favorite. It's a toss-up depending on my mood. Some days it might be, you know, Sticky Fingers. But yeah, but I like this album a lot. This was the first Rolling Stones album I ever bought also. And Gimme Shelter, this one also goes in the list of most badass songs ever. It's so hard to evaluate and think, is this their masterpiece? If not, it's real close. Number 12, Stevie Wonder, Superstition. And again, one of the most badass songs ever written. And I covered this on this channel for Halloween. I did an acoustic guitar cover. This song, every time I hear it, you know, it's like everything else just shuts off. And I'm just in this song. Okay, let's move on. Number 11, The Beach Boys, God Only Knows. Now, I won't say this is their masterpiece. That's Good Vibrations. But God Only Knows is a masterpiece. Number 10, Outkast, Hey Ya, from 2003. Off the album Speakerboxxx, Love Below, which is one of the Outkast albums that I own. And I'm really glad to see this song here. Like I said, I don't know about the other one. Maybe it's really great. But I remember when this song came out on the radio, I thought this is really one of the best songs that I've heard on radio in a long time. This song is basically a mop top era Beatles song, filtered through an R&B and hip hop sensibility. And I mean, if you think about it, you know, I could picture the Fab Four singing this song, you know. They do a few little, they put some of their ooze into it, but I can picture it. I have covered this song. In fact, I covered it on my third album. And one of the things I noticed about this song is that it's kind of like Tears of a Clown. It fools you. The song is so happy and upbeat, you don't realize how sad and sobering the lyrics are. So when I remade it, I made it sad and dark. Number 9, Fleetwood Mac, Dreams, 1977. This song recently got a boost from TikTok. This is a good song. Rumors is a great album. But in all honesty, I think there are much stronger songs by Fleetwood Mac that would be in the top 10. This is number 9. You know, I think there's much stronger songs that should be in the top 10. I have a feeling this will be the only Fleetwood Mac we see. We'll see in this top 50. I'm sure they're elsewhere in the list. Number 8, Missy Elliott, Get Your Freak On from 2001. This is a good song, but I don't think it's top 10 of all time. If I was going to do a Missy Elliott song, it would be Work It. Yeah, I know it gets played to death, but it is so much stronger. And it's amazingly infectious. And, you know, that's another, just one of those badass songs. Okay, number 7, The Beatles, Strawberry Fields Forever. I mean, this is another song that just says pop music can be anything. There are no rules. And I think we all need to keep reminding ourselves of that, especially musicians. Here we go. Number 6, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? And of course, know this song. I have the album. And a little story here. So the last time they published this list, this album, I know it was in the top 10, but I'd never heard it before. I knew the song, you know, I knew the hit singles off the album, but I didn't know the album. And I read the little thing about it in the magazine that was written about, the little write-up on the album. And it was in the top 10. I forget where it placed. And I listened to the album, and my reaction was, where has this album been all my life? This is amazing. So years later, and last year, when I did my reaction to the top 50 albums, this album was now at number 1. I think Sgt. Pepper was at number 1 before. And I know that pissed off a lot of people. Pissed off a lot of old people like me, a lot of boomers. But I have no problem with this album being number 1 in the top 10 because it's that good of an album. So is Sgt. Pepper. So are a lot of albums. Number 5, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And of course, off the album Nevermind. This album, when it came out, and this song, it just blew the lid off. I mean, we had all these, what do I call them, pop metal artists that were bad copies of Van Halen, you know, wearing spandex. And this song came out, and this album came out, and just said to all those pop metal bands that were more about image than about music, and just said, you're done. Get out of here. And it was very welcome when that happened. Bob Dylan, Like a Rolling Stone. And of course, when I was a teenager and I first heard this song was such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Such a revenge song. You know, spitefulness and revenge is something I felt as a teenager. It's something I avoid as an adult because it's not healthy. It eats your soul up. But when I was a teenager, this song helped me deal with a lot of those feelings of anger and spite, jealousy, revenge, all of that. Anyways, number 4. Number 3, Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come. There's a great Netflix special about Sam Cooke. If you haven't seen it, it's a documentary. You need to watch it. Sam Cooke, you know, was fatally shot a year after he recorded this. He did a lot in his short time frame to not only for civil rights, but also for the rights of musicians and songwriters. He did a lot, and I truly respect him for that. Number 2, Public Enemy, Fight the Power. I don't own this album. This is not one of the rap albums that I own, but it is one that I have listened to, just simply because of its historic significance. And I like this song. It's got a cool groove. You know, it's got a very cool groove. And it says right here, I'm looking at the actual article, Chuck D once likened Fight the Power to Pete Seeger singing We Shall Overcome. I totally see that. I totally see that. That's at number 2. Number 1, Aretha Franklin, Respect, 1967. One of the greatest remakes of all time. And this recording, another one of the most badass songs ever recorded. I covered this song. I think it's on this channel, or it might have been on my old channel. I'll have to go back and look. But I did an acoustic cover of this one here. And yeah, what a great remake. And just what a badass song. I have no problem with this song being at number 1. I know some people are going to, you know, wet their pants over it and say, it's woke SJW.
The top of his head is still showing. Claw at it.
And listen, if you're angry at where songs are placed on the list, go make your own. Make a video on YouTube. Publish your own list. That way we can all go tear it to pieces and tell you don't know what you're talking about. So that's the top 50. I should also mention that Robert and I have been doing an ongoing series called Top 100 Songs of All Time. And in each episode, we pick 5. We started with number 1 and are working our way to number 100. And we pick 5 each and we talk about those songs and why they're in our list. It's a personal list, our personal favorites, not based on any historical significance. And so there'll be songs you've heard of and songs you haven't heard of. And I put together a playlist. I'll link to that so you can check that out too. What do you think? You know, leave a comment. And if you like what I'm doing, be sure to click like, click subscribe, smash the bell notification icon. I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters who are helping me make more videos. If you'd like to be a Patreon supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJRTheOriginal. And if you can't be a Patreon supporter, you can show your support by just clicking like or sharing these videos on your social media. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to checking out your comments. Hope you all stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.